Well, as the first presidential election of the post-Roe era approaches, the Harris-Walz campaign and Democrats down ballot have gone all in on abortion as their major campaign theme. This makes sense as an effort to divert attention from the Biden-Harris administration's mishandling of the economy, the border, and international affairs. But it also reflects on their priorities. They believe this. They're for it. Meanwhile, many Republicans are campaigning behind a muted and timid defense of life, with some even borrowing lines from across the aisle. We need to go on the offense to create a culture of life. We don't need to apologize. There's no white flags that we need to wave. Joining me now to discuss this is Katy Faust, one of the speakers here at the Pray Vote Stand Summit. She is the founder of Them Before Us and the author of Them Before Us, Why We Need a Global Children's Rights Movement. Katy, welcome back to Washington Watch.
I love being with you. This is such a great conference. I really appreciate your principled, steadfast stance on behalf of all of the timeless issues, right, that are going to be the same, true, regardless of what the election says. But I especially appreciate that you guys are unflinching on matters that affect kids.
Well, thank you. And that's why you're here, because you're one of those. You've been speaking out about this issue of kids, and we were actually on a panel today discussing this. You said, you know, I asked you a question about biblical truth, and that if you come down on the side of biblical truth, every time children benefit from that.
Yeah, it's strange how that works. It's as if our Maker, who said, I don't want you to cause one of the least of these to stumble, actually built in child protections, both in the Word of God, but also in the world of God. That if we actually look at, you know, what is called natural law, what we can just derive and know about right and wrong, what we ought to do based on looking at the natural world, we come out with principles of child protection. And so that's what happens when you put them before us, when you put children before adults, when you prioritize the next generation above your own rights, priorities, identities, feelings. You actually get child protection, kids that thrive, and then you get a nation that thrives as well. So God's word and child protection always go hand in hand.
So why are Republicans running from the life issue?
Well, to me, it looks like someone's putting their finger in the political wind and trying to decide what they're going to stand for or against based on voting. And that is going to be like, I don't know, a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind. That's what it looks like to me. When the reality is we can and should plant our feet firmly on biblical truth, which is always going to have a connection with child protection. And we don't need to worry about the political winds, as it may be. But the other thing is that we will not only protect kids if we stand firm, but then we are going to educate other people on how to protect kids and stand firm as well. The waffling, the compromising, the soft pedaling of the truth, especially as it relates to children's right to life and matters of marriage and family, which correlates to children's right to their mother and father, it's not going to be good for anybody. Maybe, which I'm not even sure it will, maybe it will win you an election, but what are you going to get as a result? You're going to get destroyed, damaged, dead children, and you're going to lose your principles along the way.
Compromise of principle is never a formula for victory. And I'm concerned, we talked about this afternoon, the party. I understand some political figures that are new to this arena that maybe haven't completely formulated their position on this. But there are many that have been in this movement for years that are now, it's like, it's a herd mentality. There's a stampede. And it's troubling, because I want in leaders, and I think leaders need to be principled, and there are certain things, I mean, look, you compromise on things that are minor. I mean, I'll compromise with you on tax rates. I'll compromise with you on tariffs. I'll compromise with you on certain elements, but there's some things that we can't compromise.
Right.
Some basic things like life.
Yep.
Those cannot be compromised. Parental rights.
Yep.
We cannot compromise on those things.
Yeah, there's sort of a hierarchy when you want to look at issues, right? The very top tier, if you get that wrong, everything it flows down. The chocolate fountain of political issues, you're going to get wrong if you don't get the stuff at the top right. What's at the top? What does it mean to be human?
Right.
Right? Life. And then what is marriage? Family. And then I would say the other one at the top is religious liberty, conscience rights. If you get those three wrong, there's no way you're going to get the downstream issues right. Those are the things, there's no compromise, not one bit, not one iota. Those are the things we stand firm on, win or lose.
Well, and we've compromised on some of those basic issues, and therefore it's created and compounded the problems. For instance, we've compromised on marriage, and so now we have an issue with religious freedom as a result of that compromise. And so it's kind of like playing a cultural whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Because one thing's going to pop up here. But if we just stand fast, stand firm on what we know to be true, and then begin to be a force of influence on the culture.
That's right. Well, and I think that is the problem. You know, if you want to look at the church, for example, which I think is one of the mediating institutions against government, right? The church really does have a prophetic moral role in keeping the government in check, shaping the government. Unfortunately, what we've seen is the nations are discipling the church, and it needs to be the other way around. Our principles, which do not change, need to be informing the culture, shaping the culture, influencing the culture, and unfortunately, we've let it go the other direction for way too long, and children are paying the price.
Martin Luther King Jr. had a great quote on that. He said, the church is not the servant nor the master of the state, but we're a prophetic voice to the state. And if we ever lose that prophetic voice, we're nothing more than a glorified country club. I want to play a clip. The issue of abortion is front and center in this race, this presidential race. We have the Democrats that are all in. Kamala Harris has made this a #1 issue. I believe it is a reason that she selected Tim Walz as her running mate from Minnesota, a state that really is not that significant in the electoral count. But he is just as radical as she is on all of these issues, abortion, transgenderism. But Donald Trump has, you said, this is a state's issue. I disagree with that. It is a fundamental rights issue, and those are not relegated to the borders of any state. That is universal. But now more controversy, more concerning news coming to pro-lifers with Melania Trump set to release a new book, her memoirs, in which she talks about being pro-choice. I want to play a clip of a social media post, a video that she released in advance of that book, clip number 11.
Individual freedom is a fundamental principle that I safeguard. Without a doubt, there is no room for compromise when it comes to this essential right that all women possess from birth, individual freedom. What does my body, my choice really mean?
How do you respond to that? Why now? I can't understand the timing of this.
No, and I mean, I'll tell you what, the Twitterverse has all kinds of speculations about why would she release that right now? Does she not want her husband to win? Maybe she doesn't want to be in the White House, you know, or are they really thinking that they're going to get some of those independents over to their side?
She's been completely silent.
Yeah.
I mean, people have always said, where's she been? They haven't seen her. She only pops up every now and then, wasn't at the RNC. But she releases this?
I don't think that they're going to win any votes. What they are doing is demoralizing the people that were the most enthusiastic about them going back to the White House. I don't know. I mean, obviously the monkey business with the GOP platform, that was hard to take. But now you've got the First Lady coming out, and literally that could be an ad for the Democratic Party. I mean, it's absolutely gutting people's enthusiasm. Some of Trump's core supporters, in terms of maybe they'll vote for him, but I don't think they're going to be evangelists for him any longer.
I'm not going to mention any names, but I don't do that unless I've talked to them. But I had a number of people call me, pastors and others, when I was venting my frustrations with the platform committee and what had taken place there and scrubbing the pro-life language. And I had some people even say, well, you know, Melania's, she's good on these issues. I said, I don't think you should put your eggs in that basket. And now she's made very clear where she stands on this issue. To me, this is almost how to lose an election in 30 days.
Yeah, it sure looks that way. But I'll tell you what she did, and it's the same thing that Tim Walz did in the VP debate. They made a very unflinching, principled, absolutist argument for a woman's right to choose. We cannot respond with it's a state rights issue.
Right.
We need to respond with an, I'd say, more powerful, absolutist, fundamental, natural rights case for the rights of the child.
Well, when she says here these essential rights that all women possess from birth.
From when?
From birth.
Oh, from birth.
Yeah.
But not before birth. Before
What about
birth.
those women that are just maybe an inch away?
Yeah, or or a foot away or whatever. Yeah, I think that I think we've been played, Tony. I think we've been played.
So we just got a couple minutes left, and all right, people are going to say, why are you bringing this up now? I didn't bring it up. She brought it up. I'm just responding to it. Okay, you made this point very well at our panel discussion. And folks, I would encourage you, you can go to if you have the Stand Firm app, we've got the various things posted from today's panel discussions. But you made a really good, you articulated, how do we go forward? Yes, we're disappointed, but look at the alternative. So we got to put our thinking cap on here. We have to evaluate what both sides are offering. Neither are 100%, of what we want. But as I said at the opening of this election won't save the country, but it could destroy it.
Yeah, it really could. And I would say this election could destroy kids.
Yeah.
I don't think that the GOP is strong on two major issues, right to life, right to their mother and father. But there's other areas where they're better. I think that they are better when it comes to protecting children's security in terms of a secure nation. I think that they are better when it comes to protecting children's bodies from the transgender threat. So we do need to put our thinking caps on. I would encourage your people to think from the perspective of how are we going to protect kids best.
So we can talk about these things. We can express our disappointment. We can express our disapproval and vote at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly, well, you have to, right? And I would just encourage your audience, become an expert on all these issues, know more about it than anyone else, and then advocate for child protection, which ultimately leads to national protection and national thriving.
And Katy, we're going to have another opportunity to revisit the platform in 4 years, and I can assure you there's some that are not going to be flat-footed, thinking people are going to do things the way they should. We will be prepared for that. But folks, I want to encourage you to vote. Register and vote. And we've got a toolkit available for you. You can get that toolkit. It has lots of resources. You get a personalized voter guide. So text the word toolkit to 67742. That's toolkit to 67742, and you can get a copy of that toolkit. Katy, you got a couple of books out. Let's talk about the latest. But I want you to give a plug for that, because Dr. George was with us on the panel, and he was talking about the book. So
yeah, the first book is Them Before Us, Why We Need a Global Children's Rights Movement. That looks at every marriage and family issue through the lens of justice for children, from the definition of marriage to divorce to modern families to reproductive technologies to adoption. How is it that we can make sure we are doing hard things to protect kids? The second book is just my own little pet personal project with my co-author, just for all you parents out there. It's called Raising Conservative Kids in a Woke City. Basically, how do you pass on your worldview when everything is lying to your kids? And our third book just came out last week, Pro-Child Politics, where we conscript 19 subject matter experts, some of which have been at your forum, to address every major political issue through the lens of justice for children.
And you know what you're talking about in terms of raising kids in a woke city. You're from Seattle.
I'm from Seattle. We've been in the belly of the beast for a while.
Really?
But I will say, you can do it. Red state, blue state, homeschool, private school, public school. You can do it. Be strategic.
Intentional.
Intentional.
You have to be intentional.
Yeah.
Katy Faust, I want to thank you for being here at the Pray Vote Stand Summit. I thank you for the work you're doing, your courageous stand for truth, and doing it in a loving, compassionate way, but a very forthright way.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for your principled stand. We're really grateful for FRC.
All right, thank you, Katy.
Yeah, thanks.